Morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you are joining from. Thank you for taking the time to join today. My name is Praveen Kumar, and I am the Sales Solution Engineer at Infrascale. In today's session, we are going to talk about ransomware recovery and how MSPs can respond quickly when an attack happens. As we all know, ransomware attacks can bring a business down in minutes, so the focus today is on a practical framework MSPs can use to detect threats, isolate systems, and recover operations in a little as 15 minutes. So let's get started. So today's session focuses on one of the biggest challenges organizations face today, ransomware and how to recover quickly when an attack happens. We all start by looking at why ransomware recovery matters more than ever. As attacks continue to increase and many organizations are realizing that traditional backup strategies alone aren't enough. Next, we'll discuss what typically fails during ransomware incidents, where backups may be compromised, inaccessible, or too slow to restore. Then we'll introduce the 15-minute recovery framework designed to reduce downtime and restore operations quickly. We'll also walk through a simple detection, isolation, recovery workflow, followed by a clean recovery best practice to ensure systems are restored safely. Finally, we will look at how Infrascale helps organizations detect threats, protect backup data, and recover quickly. By the end of this session, you will have a practical playbook to help minimize downtime and business impact during a ransomware incident. Before we talk about recovery, it's important to understand how ransomware attacks actually work today. Modern attackers don't start by encrypting data immediately. Their first target is usually the backup systems. If they can disable or delete backups, they remove the organization's safety net. Next, once inside the environment, attackers move laterally across the network. They quietly access the multiple systems and identify critical servers before launching the attack. When they are ready, encryption happens extremely fast, often within minutes. An entire environment can be blocked before IT teams even realize what's happening. Then comes the final step, the ransom demand, usually with tight deadlines and increasing pressure to force organization into paying quickly. So the key takeaway here is this: ransomware is no longer just a cybersecurity problem. It has become a business continuity issue, because the real question organizations face is not if an attack happens, but how quickly they can recover when it does. And that's what exactly we're going to look into. Now let's talk about why recovery often fails, even when organizations believe they are well protected. One of the biggest issues we see is that backups themselves get compromised. Attackers know that backups are the easiest way for a company to recover, so they often target them first. Another challenge is time. Traditional recovery process can take hours or even days, and during that time, the business is completely disrupted. We also see situations where organizations don't have a tested disaster recovery plan. The plan might exist on paper, but when an actual incident happens, the process hasn't been practiced. Then there is the problem of manual infrastructure rebuild. Rebuilding servers, applications, and networks from scratch takes a lot of time and effort. And finally, many environments lack a proper isolation strategy, which means systems can get reinfected during recovery. So the biggest risk during ransomware isn't just the attack itself, it's how long it takes to recover. The longer recovery takes, the bigger the impact on the business. Now that we have looked at why recovery often fails, let's talk about a simple framework organization can follow to recover quickly during a ransomware incident. We call this the 15-minute recovery framework, and it focuses on 4 key steps: detect, isolate, recover, and validate. The first step is detect. The goal here is to identify abnormal activity as quickly as possible. This could be unusual file changes, suspicious login behavior, all alerts from security tools. The faster you detect something isn't right, the faster you can respond and limit the damage. The second step is to isolate. Once a potential ransomware event is identified, the priority is to stop them from spreading. That means isolating affected systems, disconnecting the compromised machines from the network, and preventing the attack from moving laterally to other servers or endpoints. The third is the recovery. This is where the recovery strategy becomes critical. Instead of spending hours rebuilding infrastructure manually, organizations should be able to launch clean systems directly from trusted backups. The idea is to get critical workloads back online as quickly as possible so business operations can continue. And the final step is validate. Before reconnecting systems back into the production environment, it's important to confirm that recovered systems are clean and uncompromised. This helps ensure the organization doesn't accidentally reintroduce the threat during the recovery process. So when we think about ransomware response, it really comes down to the workflow: detect, isolate, recover, and validate. So following this structured approach helps organization move quickly and confidently during an incident, and reduce downtime and minimize the business disruption. Now let's take a closer look at the first two steps of the framework: detection and isolation, because these are critical for limiting the damage a ransomware attack. It usually starts with the detection signals. There are a few early indicators that something may have gone wrong. For example, you might see a rapid file encryption activity where the file starts changing or locking unexpectedly. Another sign could be a backup anomaly, such as failed backups, unusual backup deletions, or unexpected changes in the backup data. Security tools may also generate endpoint alerts flagging suspicious processes or malware behavior. And sometimes one of the first indicators is the unusual login behavior, like logins from unexpected locations or privileged accounts being accessed at odd times. So once something suspicious is detected, the next priority is isolation. The goal here is simple: stop the attack from spreading further across the environment. That typically starts by disconnecting infected device from the network so they can't continue encrypting files or communicating with other systems. At the same time, it's important to disable any compromised user accounts that may be helping the attacker move through the network. In some cases, teams will also segregate affected parts of the network, essentially isolating certain segments to contain the threat. And very importantly, organizations should take steps to protect their backup repositories, since attackers often try to target those next. So the fastest you isolate the threat, the smaller the impact of the attack will be. Quick action can dramatically reduce how far ransomware spreads across the environment. Once those threats have been detected and isolated, the next step is a rapid recovery. The key here is to bring the most critical system back online as quickly as possible so the business can continue operating. Identity systems like Active Directory, because many other services depend on it. So if identity systems aren't functioning, users cannot log in and application may not authenticate properly. Once the identity systems are online, we need to shift our focus towards critical application servers and the databases that support. Once that has been completed, then you would turn on the file servers, since that's where a lot of organizational data lives and where many ransomware attacks actually cause the most damage. Finally, you look at the endpoints like user laptops or desktops. While they are important, they usually come after the core infrastructure is restored. Now, in terms of how recovery happens, there are several techniques organizations can use. One approach is instant virtual machine recovery, where systems are spun up directly from backups. Another option is booting systems from a local appliance, which can bring workload online very quickly. In some cases, organizations may use cloud failover, temporarily running workloads in the cloud while the primary environment is being restored. And of course, traditional methods like clean backup restore or recovering from a known clean version of data are also important. So the recovery should begin within minutes of detection, not hours later. The faster organizations can start restoring a critical system, the faster they can reduce the downtime and keep business operations moving. Once recovery begins, it's important to make sure the systems you bring back online are actually clean and safe to use. That's where these clean recovery best practice comes in. One of the most important things organizations can implement is immutable backups. These are backups that cannot be modified or deleted for a certain period of time. Even if an attacker gains access to the environment, they can't tamper with those backup copies. Another important practice is maintaining version backups. So instead of just keeping a single backup copy, versioning allows you to go back to multiple points in time. This helps ensure you can recover from a version that existed before the attack occurred. It's also important to have segmented backup storage. Keeping backup infrastructure separated from the production environment reduces the chance that attackers can reach and compromise those backups. The key takeaway here is that the backup strategy alone isn't enough. What really matters is having a tested recovery process that ensures systems can be restored quickly and safely after an attack. Now let's bring everything together and look at how Infrascale helps organizations move from attack to recovery. The first layer is anomaly and ransomware detection. Our platform continuously monitors backup activity and can detect unusual behaviors such as abnormal file changes or encryption patterns. This provides an early warning, allowing teams to respond before the attack spreads further. The next phase is the immutable and air-gapped backup architecture. With direct-to-cloud backups and isolated storage, the backup data is protected from deletion or modification. Even if attackers gain access to the environment, they can't easily tamper with the backup copies. We also provide unlimited backup retention and version history, which means organizations can recover from a specific point in time before the attack occurred. This flexibility is extremely important during ransomware recovery because it allows you to roll back to a clean version of the data. Then rapid recovery and failover through Infrascale disaster recovery solution. Systems can be restored either locally or in the cloud, allowing business to get critical workloads back online quickly. We also support unlimited disaster recovery testing, so our organization can validate their recovery plans without impacting the production system. And finally, security is built directly into the platform. Features like AES-256 encryption and multi-factor authentication and limited user rights help ensure that backup data remains secure and accessible only to authorized users. So when you look at the full picture here, the goal is simple: detect threats early, protect the data, and recover systems quickly when an incident occurs. That's how the organization can minimize downtime and maintain business continuity even during a ransomware attack. Hopefully this session gave you a clear view of how ransomware incident actually unfold, and more importantly, how organizations can recover quickly when they happen. If there are any questions, I would like to take those questions. So I have one question here. How do we know which backup point is safe to recover from after a ransomware attack? That's where the version backups and retention history becomes important. The system keeps multiple restore points, so administrator can roll back to a point before the infected occurred. Based on the reports, when the infection has happened, you know the timestamp, so you can use those versioning details, which provides you the timestamp, etc., and restore those versions which are not compromised with the ransomware. That can be restored, and you can bring back those servers and applications online. Thank you so much for joining the session today. I assume that this was a very informative session, so that you can talk with your end users and end customers on how you can mitigate ransomware when really it matters. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.